Hello, welcome to Tuesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw. We're back to basics tonight. It's just myself and the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Well, it's not. You're actually you're
Aye,
you're
and
misinforming the public there.
you know
We've
what?
got special guests
Absolutely.
involved.
And
A guest appearance from our travelling correspondents, Craig Swan and Michael Gannon, if I'm not much mistaken. Didn't you catch up with them earlier?
I did indeed, all the way from Denmark, and we talked obviously ahead of Celtic's clash with Midtjylland on Thursday night, and we'll be covering all of the important topics tonight, Keith. But the one I need to start with: who's going to win the Traitors?
Is it actual the final? Is it only over one night,
Thursday, I think.
or is
Aye,
it 2 nights?
Thursday.
Huh?
No, I think it's one night
Th-
on Thursday.
I'm going to be watching the football on Thursday, aren't I?
Oh, so it is. I didn't even think.
Oh my God, Daniel! What a bad way to start the show. You're going to be sitting watching the Traitors.
No, I'm working, so I won't even see it. Nightmare.
Well, by the way, that's not filling me with hope. We're doing a late night special on Thursday after the games, and you're going to tell me what the lineup was around the round table.
Don't worry, I won't ruin it. Don't
Tell you
worry.
what, that Claudia Winkleman, she'd a great game.
Aye. No, listen,
Bloody hell, Daniel!
it'll be fine. Where should we start?
I will record it.
Aye, aye. Celtic, obviously, maybe start with Celtic. We mentioned in our headline Celtic's managerial update, and I talked about that to Swanee and Mick as well. I mean, if you look at the odds, Keith,
Such that it is an update.
aye, exactly. You look at the odds. Martin O'Neill is now the favourite to be the permanent Celtic manager, which I think maybe
Yeah.
speaks to the fact that there isn't really an outstanding candidate, is there?
Well, there's a bit of that, but I think there's also a little bit of Celtic are playing quite a clever game just now. Let's just see how this plays.
Aye.
And right now it's playing pretty well, isn't it? 2 wins from 2, including Norton Rangers out at Hampden. The fans are reconnecting. You know, they better be careful because if they have got somebody in mind, they might end up in a really difficult situation where the fans would much rather just let Martin O'Neill see out this season. Because if it goes on much longer and he keeps winning games, and he keeps bringing success, and he keeps unifying the whole thing, then how do you say, Martin, just going to step aside a wee second here? We're going to bring in candidate X. And what if candidate X isn't the guy that makes the Celtic fans happy as Martin O'Neill? Honestly, I wonder now if Celtic are in a position where they just let this go. However, I do add the caveat that I do believe, and I've said it for a few days now. I think that the Craig Bellamy thing is real. But there's so many sort of imponderables there, and you know, answers that are required in terms of, does he qualify Wales in this international doubleheader? Does he qualify them into the playoffs? If he does do that, would he be willing to walk away, knowing and feeling probably obligated to take Wales into the playoffs in March for a place in the World Cup? How difficult would it be for Craig Bellamy to walk? So I genuinely believe that's a factor. But I wonder if there are a number of factors like that which have allowed Celtic just to press pause for a wee minute. The concern I would have for the Celtic board right now is they can't seem to make a decision which pleases their own people. And the longer that they press pause, and the longer that Martin O'Neill stays in charge, and the more he becomes successful, and the more he starts to enjoy himself all over again, the more difficult it is to produce a candidate from left field that the fans are going to unite behind or bond to in the way that they are bonding with Martin O'Neill. I think Celtic fans are enjoying this little walk down memory lane. I get the distinct impression they're not in any great rush for it to come to an end. Now, all that can change with results, but right now Martin O'Neill has slipped back into his old tracksuit and seems perfectly comfortable in it.
I didn't realise how close Wales are to actually qualifying outright. They've got two games
Well, they
against
can't.
Liechtenstein and North
No,
Macedonia.
you've made a mess there as well.
Oh, can they not finish top? No.
No, well, they could do, but it would require a spectacular collapse from Belgium. basically when Belgium went to Cardiff and
Oh,
won.
do you know what I'm looking at? The Nations League table. Jesus. It's one of those days.
You're having an absolute
That's
shock at the night already, Dan.
a nightmare.
So basically, I think Belgium would need to lose the last 2 games and Wales would need to score about 42 goals or something in order to come top. But it's very much on for second place. Wales are currently in third in the group. I think it's Group J. North Macedonia sitting in second. But if Wales win, I think they've Liechtenstein away and then North Macedonia at home. And 6 points from these 2 games would guarantee a playoff spot for Craig Bellamy in Wales. Now, there's a lot of ifs and buts, and as I said, imponderables in there. So, is it a situation that Celtic are sitting by watching? I mean, I'm not saying, by the way, and I have to be clear on this, that Craig Bellamy has been selected as Celtic's preferred candidate.
Yeah.
But I do think there's interest on both sides. I do think that there's a bit of back channeling and a willingness to have the conversation. And that might surprise a lot of people. I know that I've said this once already. I risk further enraging any Welsh people that might be watching, because they'll probably take it as read that Craig Bellamy, under no circumstances, would leave that position while he's still got a chance of taking Wales to a World Cup. And I completely understand that. Given that he's such a proud, patriotic Welshman, it would come as a surprise were he to turn his back on an opportunity like that. However, and I'm not saying this without reason, I do have reason to believe that it's a conversation that Craig Bellamy is more than happy to get involved in. I think he's 45, 46 and doesn't feel, even though this World Cup is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I think there is a pull, a lure of club football and Celtic in particular that I think Craig Bellamy would find difficult to turn down regardless of the circumstances around the Wales job. So that's one that I've said from pretty much the start of this. I'm not discounting because I've got reason to believe there's something in it. But listen, there's a whole bunch of other possible runners and riders. And right now, as I said, it does feel a little bit to me as if Celtic have pressed pause and that they're happy just to let Martin O'Neill run with it for a while. It's actually going to take a heart of stone for somebody from the Celtic board, who are not a popular bunch right now, to walk down and say, Martin, thanks very much for getting us to the cup final. Now off you pop. So there's a lot of different factors and considerations that will be on the table and in play with regards to this. But I don't know what the boys have said to you. I look forward to it. I rather suspect that they feel that I feel that nobody feels in any great rush at this minute in time to push it in any particular direction probably for a number of various reasons.
Well, I mean, while we're on Celtic, I did catch up with Michael Gannon and Craig Swan in Denmark earlier today. We should probably just let them speak for themselves, I guess. I should say before we put this on, Keith, I've absolutely no idea why, but once we've compressed this video, they've come out looking sort of, I mean, orange and pastel-like. It's a bit weird. So, if you're wondering why,
what you do, put the Donald Trump filter on them or something like that.
Aye, that do you know Mick would suit that? I think. Aye.
Or the Scott McDermott and Andy Newport filter, is it?
Well, on that note, let's hear what you guys had to say a little earlier today. Joined on Hotline Live now, all the way from Denmark, by Michael Gannon and Craig Swan. Guys, how's it going?
Good, Daniel. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks.
Oh, good. As you can see, we've been put up in the kind of the Herning travel lodge, I think it is here. Alan Partridge, hanging about the car park in the middle of nowhere.
Aye, I know, it looks lovely. You're obviously there ahead of Celtic's clash with Midtjylland on Thursday night in the Europa League. It's going to be a really tough game for Celtic. They obviously beat Nottingham Forest, Midtjylland 3-2 recently. They're top of the Europa League. Aye, it won't be easy, will it?
No, I think Celtic have got a fair idea about what they're going to be going into. You only need to take a look at the Europa League table to see that and see the results that they've had. They're going to be. I don't think we're reinventing the wheel here. I think we've got a fair idea about what the Danish team are going to be like. They're going to be well structured. They're going to be pretty physical. They're going to be strong. They're going to have one or two technicians. They're going to be dangerous. So Celtic know what they're getting themselves into. But You know, I suppose it's interesting what reference point you take, because obviously you had Hibs run them really close in the qualifiers. So are you looking at that sort of Midtjylland? Are you looking at the one that's one at the home of an English Premier League team and on top of the table just now? So it's a kind of tricky one to call at the moment, to be perfectly honest, in terms of what Midtjylland are going to provide for Celtic. But I suppose the biggest thing for Celtic is just them being at the same levels as they've been at the last couple of games since Martin O'Neill's come back. The important thing is for Celtic to maintain a momentum in terms of performance, and if you do that, then normally the result comes after it.
And with like Roma coming up and having lost at home to Braga, Mick, they kind of have to take something from these away games, don't they, Celtic now?
Well, they need to find a win somewhere else, because obviously the Braga one has left them kind of needing to play catch up, and you think you get Roma, Feyenoord on the horizon as well, Bologna away. I mean, Celtic need to find wins from somewhere, so it need to be here. Is it a main priority now? I have my kind of doubts. I mean, it isn't the pecking order of priorities. But I think performance might be more important if it's possible than the result. There's been a kind of feel good kind of factor. Is that the old cliche, isn't it, around Celtic the last week or so? The Martin O'Neill coming back, getting a couple of big results. Obviously, the Rangers result was huge for the entire club, but he seems to have kind of unified the place after a lot of disharmony in the first part of the season for whatever reasons. If they can keep that going with a good performance out here, maybe, getting some kind of positive result, it just keeps that momentum up. And it buys the Celtic board more breathing space in terms of the managerial search. I know we're now looking towards the international break and thinking, is that going to be when it's done? I'm not so sure now. I just think it's a game that's probably one everyone could do without, really, let's be honest. But if they can get through it with a positive performance and a positive result, then it just keeps things bubbling over nicely for them.
We had the story on Record Sport Online yesterday that Mark Van Bommel had been offered the chance to speak to Celtic, but didn't take it up. You mentioned the managerial stuff there, Mick. I mean, do you think Martin O'Neill will still be in the dugout come the League Cup final on December the 14th?
Well, listen, if you want to see some more in-depth quality Celtic content, go to the Celtic Record podcast we've recorded today. Just to give it a wee plug. No, wait, do we pay any extra for that? I don't think we do. No. I'm starting to think that he might just be leading the team out at Hampden on December 14th. I just think that Celtic have got a bit of breathing space now with the kind of impact he's made. I think he's a safe pair of hands. A bit of me thinks that maybe he deserves the chance to lead the team out at Hampden in that final. Maybe that's the kind of the postscript to his Celtic story. I don't know. I think that then you think there's a new manager come in, that could be one of his first games. Losing the cup final might not be the best way to start off as a new manager. You'll not be seeing anyone come in and see that way anyway. Opportunity to go off to a flyer, but I just think Celtic have got breathing space now. I think in Sean Maloney in there, along with Martin O'Neill, they've got a safe pair of hands, or two safe pair of hands in there. I don't think there's the same rush and need to go and push it. I just think I think it would make sense to let it rumble on just now, and perhaps even to the end of the season. I don't know. I'm starting to think that may be an option.
I mean, whatever happens, Swanee, Celtic fans love having Martin O'Neill back. They just love seeing him on the touchline. Yeah,
he's a legend at Celtic for what he did in his first spell at the club. I differ slightly from Michael. I think that Celtic should be trying to move it. Martin O'Neill was pretty clear when he came in that it was short term, and he was the one that was talking about the international break. And I think if Celtic have a bigger vision and a bigger picture in this whole thing, that they should be moving along swiftly and trying to get the thing. But I take Michael's point completely. It has given some breathing space, but how much breathing space do you have when you come back for the international break? I think Celtic have an away game with Easter Road. I think the Roma and the Europa, those games can go wrong before the cup final. So I think Celtic have to be looking at the bigger picture. But I do take Michael's point clearly on board. He's given everyone a lift at Celtic. There is no doubt about that. You just need to look at some of the performances of some of the players who are looking a bit, stale or sort of down in the mouth. Guys like Arnie Engels and Dyson Maeda and those kind of players just prior to Brendan Rodgers leaving. So he's obviously given everyone a lift, but in terms of how long it goes, you would like to imagine that a club like Celtic would be along the lines and moving quite quickly in terms of looking at a full-time appointment. But again, I take Michael's points on board. If things keep going well and it keeps buying them breathing space, then fine. But I would think that it'd probably be better to get it resolved quicker. I'm not sure that keep Martin O'Neill. For instance, if it's announced that Martin O'Neill's staying to the end of the season, do you then have that situation where, you know, with Brendan Rodgers, the players were obviously knew that he wasn't going to be there next year, so how much does that have an effect on how they perform? If you then put someone in and say he's only going to be there at the end of the season, well, how does that work? Do they do the same again in February or March and drop off it a bit? I don't know. I'm just surmising. But
I think it would have the opposite effect. I think if you say just now, well, listen, I don't think the out-of-job market just now isn't that great. If it was great, somebody would be in charge now. Do you know what I mean? It's been a week and a half, 10 days since Brendan Rodgers left. So the out-of-job market, I don't think there's not that much about just now. So you're now talking about a guy in a job. I mean, there's a bit of delay. So you think, looking at leagues perhaps like your kind of Far East again, your America, Scandinavian leagues that finish in November, December. Are you waiting for somebody there? Somebody who's maybe involved in national team games in November, that kind of stuff. So you're looking for guys in jobs now. You're saying that players make things uncertainty with a guy leaving in the season. If it's Martin O'Neill leaving in the season, that's not Brendan Rodgers leaving in the season. If you've got Martin O'Neill in charge, it's almost like this is this guy's last hurrah. I think it would motivate that squad to say, you know what, we're going to make sure this guy goes out in the best possible style. It's not like he's going to go somewhere to another club that might be against him one day. It's like this is probably the last kind of big job he would be doing at that age. Let's go for it and let's go out on a high, and then whoever comes in the next summer can take over and whatever. Yeah. I just think, I don't know, I'm starting to think it makes a bit more sense. I'm
not sure a lot of those players have that connection with Martin O'Neill. You know, the supporters have a connection with Martin O'Neill.
Yeah, but young
20-year-old Belgians and Tunisians don't really have that connection with Martin O'Neill.
No, but you don't have fairness. You could say about any manager, really, let's be honest. If they win games, they get bonuses, they get feel-good belts. Yeah. No, I know, but you're saying that the uncertainty because I imagine in the summer. Well, let's say it works both ways. Mm-hmm. Why would they bother either way? They just go and turn up and do their job anyway. Mm-hmm. I just think that the environment that the unity can create from the stands and on the pitch, the way he's got to play, and I just think it has bought them breathing. I think you're right. It probably will be still the kind of target during that international break to bring a new man in. What I'm saying is that if they look around, there's no point in jumping and taking a gamble that they're not 100% on, because they have got these guys in charge that they can do a job in the short term, even slightly longer. Even if it's a case of get the cup final out the way, and whatever season they're involved in abroad, where they can come in for the start of January and then start a new window, start afresh, and then build from there. I don't think that's a big deal. I think that's not a bad way of doing it.
I also don't think you should, or anyone should, underestimate the contribution of Sean Maloney.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, Sean's a young coach who has been at a high level with Belgium, you know, at major tournament football. And these younger guys, you know, could have a good, you know, you might find they've got a really good relationship with Sean. They might be going great with Sean, and Sean's invigorating them tactically and things like that. So I think when we talk about Martin O'Neill,
it's a package.
It's probably important to. I think I'm maybe guilty sometimes of just talking about Martin O'Neill and these things that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, it's the package.
I also think it's the package more than anything else. I think Mark Fotheringham is in there as well with Sean. But, you know, they might be getting...
Don't underestimate Cal McGregor.
Cal McGregor as well.
If he's on board, the team's on board.
So, you know, that could be invigorating, you know, a lot of the players as well. You know, some fresh tactical ideas and some fresh things in training. And that could be a big part of it. So I think you're right, mate. I think you have to talk package here. I think people should stop talking Martin O'Neill. I think it's both. I like the package because I think it's equally... Each part is equally important.
The guys there in Denmark, and I should say, Keith, before we go any further, some of the accusations that have been made that the guys are from Mizuno sitting in a window in Amsterdam, and Sniper says, look, they're in a furnace.
In Amsterdam, Denmark.
I was going to say, they promised me they're in Denmark, and when I recorded that video, I have no idea it wasn't bright orange. But there you go. Technology.
Was it just me, or was Swanee giving up for a bit of Line of Duty vibes there? Didn't he look a little bit like Ted Hastings or something?
That didn't occur to me, but now you say it, I can see where you're coming from now. He's not over there looking for Celtic's new manager. He's looking for an OCG. We've got plenty of comments coming in on Celtic. Keith, let me throw a few of these at you. David says, I think O'Neill will stay to the end of the season. It gives the board an excuse not to splash the cash in January till a new boss comes in next season. Mark says, Keith, stop flogging a dead horse. Bellamy, no chance. John says, I don't want Bellamy at Celtic, totally unqualified. Marzuno again, what gives Celtic the best chance of winning the league this year? Sticking with Neil Maloney or rolling the dice with a new manager in December? Stephen says he reckons it'll be Knutson. This one, Kenneth, Andy says, do you think that if Robbie Keane came in with Sean Maloney, that would be a good combo? So plenty of opinions from the Celtic fans there.
Yeah, look, I've mentioned previously that I think there might be a bit of an undercurrent against the whole Robbie Keane idea.
I think you're right about that as well. Aye.
Sort of a political backlash, which, you know, as I said previously, I don't know enough about the situation. I'm surprised to find that Robbie Keane sort of has lost his status as, you know, the darling of the Republic of Ireland supporters because of previously working in Israel. I don't want to open that trap door to delve into it, but I could see there being a bit of an issue there, which is baggage that Celtic probably don't need, and I think that's a shame because, you know, Robbie Keane, I think, is emerging as, you know, a real kind of strong candidate for a big job somewhere. I don't know if Celtic's going to be able to see. He's been mentioned in dispatches as a potential candidate for the Wolves job. And obviously he's got history there. I don't know. It's something. There's the potential for that one to get a little bit toxic, just because of the nature of the political thing around Celtic and supporters and that sort of a stuff. I think Celtic would probably be wary of that. Craig Bellamy, despite what Mark says, is really highly rated young coach as well. I think we went into his background was, of course, very much with Vincent Kompany. I think at Anderlecht, and then they teamed up again at Burnley. And do you know what makes me think there might be some legs in it as well? See that connection and the City Group connection. That's where Celtic went to when Eddie Howe fell through. They went to the City Group taxi rank and they found Ange Postecoglou waiting at the rank, and that's so. I'm always aware of various connections in there, and you just wonder if Vincent Kompany has said to people in the City Group, "Look, this guy is outstanding. He certainly went to Wales. I think he became the first manager in the history of Wales to remain unbeaten after his first 4 games." And he's now, you know, got a very average Welsh team on the verge of a potential World Cup. So, you know, I think he's got quite a lot going for him. And he suits that profile that Mark O'Neill was mentioning about a younger coach, hungry, on an upward trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't dismiss it. And also, you know, it does chime with this timetable of events that Celtic seem to have put in place, as if they're aware that whoever the candidate is wasn't going to be available overnight. There would need to be a period of waiting. Now, how long that period is, we don't know. How long's a piece of string? But in the here and the now, and I take on board some of the comments there, I think there are Celtic fans, as I said earlier, who are more than happy to let this little romantic walk down memory lane continue for a period, and what a way it would be for the season end. Could you imagine Martin O'Neill delivering 1, 2, 3 trophies?
The Europa League
at that age. Well, I wouldn't go too far, Daniel, but you know, but you know, imagine signing off at his age with a domestic treble. I mean,
that'd be amazing.
Look, we were talking about Craig Gordon and things, you know, being written in the stars and fate intervening. Fate has intervened in this situation, and it's put Martin O'Neill in this position at this late stage. It doesn't look like me, despite what he says, He doesn't look to be a man that's in any hurry to hang the trackie up. I think he's perfectly happy where he is right now, and I think that feeling will grow on both sides in terms of the support and the manager, and potentially the boardroom level as well, if these results just keep snowballing and Celtic get stronger and stronger. So yeah, I factor into all of that, as we said before, the boys there. I'm getting the impression there's no great rush. There's nobody running about with their hair on fire at the minute, trying to get candidates to sit down. I think there's an acknowledgement that for whatever reason it is, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long, that Celtic are perfectly content with the situation as it is, and they're not going to be forced into a knee-jerk reaction, that's for sure.
The last little bit of Celtic news that I wanted to clear up, Kenneth says, have Celtic taken Carter Vickers out of the Europa squad and put in Osman under UEFA rules? They can change out.
That's certainly an option. That's certainly an option that's available to them. It's a kind of little known bit of red tape in UEFA's rules, but if you've got a player who's been diagnosed with a long-term injury, and I think the definition of long-term in this case is 60 days.
Yeah.
That there is an option to make changes to the squad, and that would certainly be, I think, a very appealing option given Celtic's lack of numbers in forward areas right now. Obviously, Johnny Kenny started at the weekend. Callum Osman come off the bench to such great effect. You would think very much that he's a guy that they'd want to get in that travelling party before they go to Denmark.
Aye, absolutely.
And it's a difficult game, this,
Aye, really difficult.
I think I said, Daniel, I saw some of Midtjylland's opening game against Sturm Graz, and okay, it was maybe just most of the first half, I think it was, but they looked to me to be... Listen, I'm not saying either of the two of them are going to win the competition, but Midtjylland looked... I think they went 2-0 up in the game. They looked fairly comfortable in it. Sturm Graz didn't look great defensively. From what I've seen of Midtjylland, 3 games, 3 wins. Sturm Graz, Nottingham Forest, Maccabi Tel Aviv. It's interesting as well that their manager, Mike Tilburg, he's assisted by Morten Rasmussen. Remember him?
Blast from the past.
Yeah. Obviously with a Celtic connection. Never really got the chance to, I didn't think, have the career he was hoping for when he signed for Celtic. Fell out of the picture under Neil Lennon, I think it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently he's... And the weird thing is he's now called Duncan.
He's what?
I don't know why, yeah. Apparently before he came to Glasgow, he was Duncan Morten Rasmussen. He dropped the Duncan, but now he's brought the Duncan back.
I thought you were making some sort of weird joke there. No, but he is called Duncan now.
Apparently.
All right, fair enough.
I don't know. Make it make sense.
Aye.
Big dunk.
The other stuff, the other games in the Europa League this week, of course, Keith, Aberdeen are playing Larnaca. I always think, and like Aberdeen fans, correct me if I'm wrong, this is almost like an inconvenience for Aberdeen, being in this competition. I think they really want to get their season back on track.
Just playing games of football right now seems like an inconvenience for Aberdeen, whether it's at home or domestically or in Europe.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a difficult one, and it shouldn't be. You look at that and you think Conference League, it's Larnaca. Any chance Aberdeen get some points on the board for Scotland's coefficient?
I know,
but it's away, and lo and behold, if you look at the Conference League table right now, you'll see Larnaca sitting in second position, tied at the top on points with Fiorentina. 2 wins from 2. So it's just all your worst nightmares rolled into one, isn't it, for Aberdeen, who are sitting there anchored at the bottom of the table, 36 out of 36. And by the way, that's 14 places beneath Red Imps. So
there you go. I mean, you're still doing your work with the Samaritans.
Yeah, it's not a particularly pleasant picture, is it? And I, to be honest with you, do I fancy Aberdeen's chances? I have my doubts.
Yeah. The other game, of course, on Thursday involving Scottish teams is Rangers-Roma, which maybe the headline game of the week. Pete has been in touch He says the Bala not travelling is actually a blessing for Roma. It will force Gasperini to abandon the false nine system. Dovbyk up top with Pellegrini playing in the 10 makes Roma a more threatening side. They have been really good in Serie A this season, Roma. This is, again, going to be a very big test for Danny Rowe.
I think Pete's got the wrong channel here. False nines, number 10s. Look, this is dinosaurs or us. No, listen, do you know what? I'm going to now join him. See Gianpiero Gasperini. This guy is outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. I think he had 9 years at Atalanta, having spent a journeyman career. What he did with Atalanta was incredible. He's a guy who's, he doesn't like Martin O'Neill. He's not being defined by his age. I think he's 67. So in just a couple of games, young Danny Rowe at the age of 36 will have come up against a 73-year-old and a 67-year-old, and both of them know their way about a dugout in a technical area. Gasperini's Atlanta side was terrific. I think he achieved so much that he earned himself the move to Roma. I thought people just kind of made the assumption he was just going to stay there until it was, all over for him. But he's taken Roma on, which is a big job in Italy, obviously. I think a few games into the start of the Serie A season, he's 1 point off the top of the table.
Yep.
I know they're sitting in fourth place. I know they lost at the weekend to AC Milan, I think, but they're only 1 point behind Napoli. This guy just continues to impress. It is the sort of ultimate Indian summer that he's been enjoying over the last decade or so. But that all said, they're struggling a little bit in the Europa League. And some of the bigger Italian sides, I wonder, because of the new format, you wonder how much they've got, if they take the eye off the ball at the early stages in these competitions and think, we'll make the points up later. But as things stand, where are they? I think they're sitting Roma in 23rd position with 1 win and 2 defeats from the first 3 games. They beat Nice, but they lost to Lille and Victoria Pilsen.
Below Celtic as well.
Yeah, well, look, it's not a great start, is it? And if Rangers could find a way of turning the tables on them and winning at Ibrox, then they'd be in the same position with 3 points after 3 games, and pulling up, next to them in the table. Rangers obviously in a terrible start, just like Aberdeen, sitting in 36th. But you do look at it as an opportunity for Rangers' home crowd. I think this is one of the more difficult ties, obviously, of the section for them. But it's also an opportunity. You look at the performance level that they put on against Celtic, and while it wasn't sensational or anywhere near it, it was a lot more aggressive, and Danny Rose had a bit of praise. And I think, in a strange way, even though he's just lost a game against Martin O'Neill and Celtic at Hampden, got knocked out a cup semi-final, it was a really strange set of circumstances that I think he came out of it with his reputation certainly intact and possibly enhanced, because it was such the sort of anti-Russell Martin Rangers performance. It was aggressive, it was bold, it was all the things that the Rangers fans are hoping to see from the manager that they've got now. So what I think I'm saying is there's a bit of goodwill, even despite that result, going into this game on Thursday night at Rangers. And if Danny Rowe can get a big win, and that would constitute a big win under the lights. Rangers fans have been turning up and going through the motions for the Europa League so far this season. This could potentially flick a switch if Rangers attack this game front-footed, get a result, put on a performance. They might just ignite something that's been missing from Ibrox since the start of the season in terms of the passion and the atmosphere, and it will help. It would help certainly reconnect with the fans. But it's like anything, fine margins, isn't it? Because if Rangers turn up and get a pasting, then Danny Rowe's coming off the back of 2 pretty damaging defeats with it all to prove.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
off the back of
Dundee,
that brand game as well.
yeah, I don't think you could attribute any of the blame for that to Danny Rowell. He was literally just in the door. I'm not even sure that he picked the starting 11 for that game, as we've discussed previously, and my suspicions over who might have been behind some of that, or certainly influenced it. And by the way, that's still a topic of conversation, given some of the players that seem to have become first picks over the last week or so, 2 weeks since Danny Rowell came in. However, if you look at the bigger picture, I think the Rangers fans are prepared to give him a little bit of time, because they like the change. They like the change in attitude. They like the kind of the uplift in aggression and purpose and playing the ball forward, and tactically they probably looked at how he manipulated things at half time against Celtic, and actually, even though they were down to 10 men, he made Rangers better by the positional changes and strategic changes that he introduced, going to a 4-3-2 effectively, really.
Yeah.
And being bold. So I think he's got a bit of momentum there. Certainly, I don't think the goodwill has evaporated just because of what went on at Hampden. And I think it could go either way. If he goes to Ibrox, puts on a performance, gets them on the board in terms of some Europa League points, claims a big scalp, I think the thing could really start to build from there. If, however, as I said, he goes and Rangers get turned over in front of their home fans, it starts to look like things could start becoming pretty difficult pretty quickly for him as well. So these are a massive couple of days for Rangers and for Danny Rowell.
In the comments, Rab says, how can you lose a semi-final to a team with a caretaker manager and have any credit? Realistic? No. Let me have a look at this.
I'm guessing Big Rab's not. I'm talking about with the Rangers fans. I'm guessing Big Rab doesn't count himself among the Rangers fans.
I would think not, probably. I would think not.
Right, okay.
And the other comments, let me have a look. Gianni very helpfully says, Daniel, lump on Roma to pay for your wee bird's Christmas, which is very helpful. He also says,
That's so sexist. You can't
says,
use language like that, Gianni.
I know, it's 2025. Come on, Gianni. He says Keith's been on the Barolo already if he thinks Rangers can get something. But there is actually a lot of, or some confident Rangers fans in the comments as well. Kenneth says Roma have been poor in Europa this season. I think Rangers will get something out of the game. I mean,
they've also got, as one of the guys said there, they've got Gasperini's got a problem in terms of his front line. Paulo Dybala is obviously not making the flight. I think they signed Evan Ferguson, didn't they? Your favourite, Dan. But he's got an ankle injury, and I don't think he'll be part of the travelling party. So I think he's going to have to give it a bit of a shake-up. I think Dybala actually injured himself missing a penalty at the weekend.
Aye,
which which just shows you that's, when your luck's out, it's out. And it's left him with a bit of an issue in terms of who's going to come in. Leon Bailey, I think, used to be at Villa. I don't know how regularly he's been getting a game, but he could come into the thinking up front. But yeah, they've got issues. And as smart as I think Gianpiero Gasperini is, he's not without his work to do ahead of this game. So, look, would I consider Rangers favourites? No, I wouldn't. But we've seen in the past they are capable sometimes of raising their levels on Thursday nights in this competition, and I think this game represents a fresh start for them. Despite I obviously acknowledge that Danny Rowell was in charge for the Brand-Bergen game. But I don't really think that, as I said, that you could point the finger of blame at him for what happened in that game. I look at what's happened subsequently to get a better gauge for the work that he's done in a short space of time. And while it's not been, utterly sensational, it's been reasonably impressive. And if he can get it all together and get his selection right, his tactics right, and pull off a bit of a scalp, I think that'd be a signature win for him. If he could do that, a real signature result, and it could act as a trigger point for Rangers season. As I said to you, the flip side of that is if it goes wrong for Rangers, then he very quickly starts to get into a difficult position in terms of his credibility and his popularity with the Rangers supporters, who, you know, they are not fond of losing games of football. They will bite their tongue a little bit on the back of what happened at Hampden, but you wouldn't want to follow that up with another sore one, because you know, and let's be fair, the Rangers fans, it's no wonder their patience is running out.
Yeah.
Given what they've had to go through over a sustained period of time now, and they're desperately looking for signs that they've got a guy in charge here that can get them back to winning ways, and not just winning games against Kilmarnock or Hibs, with all due respect, but big games that really matter. And this is his next opportunity to do that.
One final trip to the comments, Keith, before we wrap up tonight's show. Pete says, don't worry, Keith, Dovbyk will play. Pellegrini has a point to prove and will stroll about Ibrox like he owns the place. James says, Roma game is too soon for all. I'd settle for a performance like the second half of the semi. Sean says, I can see Roma rolling over Rangers. If Celtic had taken the chances, Rangers would have been on the wrong end of a bad one Sunday. They were lucky to get the win against Hibs. And brilliantly, Keith, you'll like this, Hugh has been in touch. He says, Rasmussen had the nickname Dunk prior to joining Celtic for his supposed resemblance to Duncan Ferguson's playing style. This was always a head-scratcher for Celtic, as he was very meek and ineffective. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, Hugh, thank you very much.
Well, it's not your average sort of Danish name, is it? Duncan.
It's certainly not.
But yeah, a bit of a mystery, but there you go. I actually think he might be back to Duncan now. I think he might have readopted it, but we'll find out.
We've had a
Get
couple
Mick and Swanee in the case.
We've had a couple of people as well. Keith Mark is one of them, asking us to give St Mirren a shout out, obviously getting to the final at the weekend. I think we actually did touch on it.
Yeah, we did, Mark.
On Sunday's show. But an amazing achievement. I thought Motherwell were going to win that game, to be honest. But St Mirren...
Well, I'm glad that Mark's raised this, because I seem to recall last Thursday night you were tipping Motherwell and I was telling you, no, St Mirren will deal with them, they'll put them away. Remember
Keith,
that?
You're breaking up, Keith.
Yeah. Same old. Yeah, look, that I really admire the football that Motherwell are trying to play. I like it. And you hope it comes off for them and the manager. But I just always felt St Mirren were likely to be a little bit more streetwise. They are a little bit more direct. I don't think there's any shame in that. I did say to you, Daniel, that as they say in boxing, styles make the fight.
Yep.
And I was really interested to see those two very different styles. But they're both, styles that are there to try and win games of football. St Mirren just do it a little bit better than Motherwell at this moment in time. And yes, in terms of, I actually think St Mirren enjoyed the open spaces. I know they're used to playing in smaller. Their home pitch is a lot smaller. Or certainly feels that way. I think they enjoyed the kind of open expanse of Hampden, and there was, they could play. I'm not saying they're a long ball team. I'm not, but they do have guys who can exploit balls over the top with the pace and power.
Yeah,
and I think they enjoyed it, and I actually think they'll give Celtic. I think it could be a right interesting final, because St Mirren won't turn up just to make up the numbers. That for sure. They never do. They've made themselves such a competitive side under Stephen Robinson, and he'll be desperate to make sure that they put on a show and give Celtic a game in that final. I think they will. They're a really difficult side to come up against.
It seemed actually, no disrespect to St Mirren, but this is St Mirren we're talking about. The job that Stephen Robinson's done is incredible.
Astonishing. It really is.
3 years in the top six now into a cup final, could win a trophy.
Well, Daniel, you've hit the nail on the head. What makes it astonishing is the consistency.
Aye.
That should be so difficult to achieve at a club where you're operating a bit of a shoestring, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the league. You're always possibly, high turnover of players. You're shopping and, not the most salubrious of marketplaces. And time again, he keeps, whether it's, having to 3-4 players at a time, turning the team over, keeping things fresh. He knows exactly the profile of player that he needs, and he goes and he finds them and he recruits them for next to nothing. and they continue to get result after result. And you know that you can't take. I certainly can't give them enough credit for that over the last 3 or 4 seasons. I think it's been an exceptional job by Stephen Robinson. I think he gets a bit unnecessarily needled sometimes. I think he seems to think the whole world's pointing at him saying, "Oh, it's so unfashionable." Certainly, we haven't done that in this show.
No.
I think we give them the absolute credit they deserve. I don't think there's anything the matter with the style of football that they play. They play a style of football that suits the players that he's got at his disposal, and all the best of luck to them for it. They were more than worthy winners at the weekend. And as I said to you, I think they go to Hampden for that final on December the 14th, and I give them more than just a puncher's chance. They're a decent football side. They will give Celtic a game.
Aye, absolutely. Time will tell, I guess, but for tonight, I think that brings us to the end of Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you for all the comments coming in. We massively appreciate them, as always. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. But for now, Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, and tomorrow we'll have updates from Denmark. We will be at the Rangers pre-match press conference ahead of the game against Roma as well. So it's all starting to come back onto the boil, isn't it? Busy couple of days ahead.
Aye, and just before, Chris, who's our fan that watches in Houston, he says he's got a number for a camper van for Keith and Scotty, so he can pass that on. Obviously, I'll be staying in the house with Chris because that's a legally binding contract that he put that in the show last night. So, aye, we'll sort that.
Yeah, steady on, Tiger. Scotland need to get there first.
Aye, true, I know. Thank you very much for watching at home, and hope you can join us tomorrow. Cheers.